Hello, dear friends of freedom. What you're about to see is a fragment of an interview with a former member of Putin's inner circle who is asked whether Putin is valuing human life. He responded by sharing two personal stories that he experienced while being in close contact with Putin. On the day of the announcement of the mobilization in Russia, this new interview has been published by the famous Ukrainian journalist Dmitry Gordon. In his interview, he talks with Sergei Pugachev, who is an ex-oligarch, former Russian banker, owner of Meshprombank, entrepreneur and international investor who has been in very close contact with Putin over the time span of 2 decades. Their relationship went even so far that the two of them were privately celebrating birthdays together with their wives and kids. It is safe to say that he is one of the very few people who has been in close contact with Putin and who is still alive despite his decision to speak out against him. After a conflict with Putin regarding the mandatory sale of Pugachev's multi-billion-dollar shipbuilding company, Pugachev has left Russia for good, despite multiple invitations in which Putin suggested to him to come back to Russia to sort things out. Sergei Pugachev is currently living in France. The interviews with Sergei Pugachev and Dmitry Gordon have been very popular in Ukraine and Russia. The first interview was a 5-hour uncut conversation that was watched over 18 million times so far, which is an extremely high value for Russian-speaking content. In the latest interview, Sergei Pugachev was asked if Putin is viewing human life as valuable. This is what he has answered. And what does human life mean to him? Does he understand its value or not? This is a good question. There was a moment after Yeltsin, who, despite everything he has cost us, was a member of a Soviet collective. But after him came a person who simply made some very strange statements in between his actions. When I remember this situation, it was even for me hard to believe back then. There was the situation where there was this person, Pavel Borodin, who back then hired an unemployed, abandoned, homeless person named Putin, and his close friend Igor Sechin. And perhaps you remember the story of Pavel Borodin being arrested for money laundering in the US when he went there for the inauguration. He was arrested at the request of Switzerland. Later on, he was extradited to Switzerland and afterwards released on bail. This was 2001. His wife approached me and asked me to help her find a lawyer for him, which I did. I simply paid money for those lawyers and didn't bother too much about it. Later on that year, I was meeting Putin to talk about unrelated issues. During our talks, he asked me, "How's Pavel doing? Is everything all right?" I said, "Yes, of course, everything is fine." At this point, I have to mention that there was a story that would look quite bad for Putin in terms of PR. Basically, a bank account has been opened under Pavel Borodin's name, and quite a lot of Putin's money has been parked there. Pavel Borodin only found out about it while he was already in prison. I was quite involved and know the details of that case. In the end, he was released, and there wasn't even a trial, because they were able to clear things out with him. It was the back then quite famous Swiss chief prosecutor Carla de Ponte who cleared things out with him, and he was released on bail, and later on he returned to work, as they say. And Putin was telling me, "So you are taking care of that, right?" I told him, "Yes, my lawyers are there and they take care of it. I can't take care of it personally as I am not in Switzerland." Then he asked me to come with him and to go out of his cabinet. The exit of his cabinet was directly leading to two elevators. The elevators could either drive down or up towards his apartment. Is it Putin's personal apartment? Well, it's the apartment of Putin and Stalin and all the other past leaders. So yes, it is that kind of construction right over the presidential cabinet. And there are those two elevators to which no one has access except of his bodyguards. And even they are only allowed to go there when he calls them. So usually after our meeting, we would go and have lunch together. But this time, he insisted on taking a ride on the elevator with me. So we went into the elevator, drove up, and he pressed the stop button halfway and started asking me, "Listen, are your guys trustworthy?" I told him that I trust them and that they are all right. He told me, "Listen, do you understand how much information Pavel has probably already spilled out when he was arrested in America? We can only imagine it. And how much more will he talk now in Switzerland? Can you imagine it?" I told him, "What do you mean? What should he tell them that he hasn't already? What kind of secrets is he supposed to have?" He told me, "Let's make it short. Are your guys over there reliable?" I said, well, yes, they are good lawyers. He said, no, I mean, can they be trusted? I said, I understand. What exactly has to be done? He answered, and I will quote him now. Is it possible to hit his head with something heavy, roll him in a carpet, load him in a private jet, and fly him here and bury him here? And then he added, we have done that many times already. I knew him since 1990. And that was the first time where I was not just shocked, but in some kind of trance. When he saw that I was just speechless, he said, never mind, we will figure something out, it's alright. Then he pressed the button, and he returned to his office. So that was the first story. And this is a person that back then gave him a job, when Putin had nothing. Yes, that's the point. Everyone knows what Pavel Borodin has done for him. So this is concerning all those stories about Putin being a reliable person who never betrays his people and so on and so forth. That's just a myth. But you have asked about something else, about his relationship towards human life. Back then he told me, if he spills anything there, so help him God. So let's hit him with something heavy on the head and the body gets delivered here, rolled in a carpet. And he said, we have done this many times already. As the saying goes, words once said cannot be taken back. After my reaction, he seemed to understand that he went too far. He said, come on, relax, everything will be fine. We will figure something out. And he was trying hard to change topics and to cheer me up. So that's the one story, and the second one was the following. So I was sitting together with Putin and his wife Lyudmila in their kitchen, in his Novogoryovskaya mansion. I don't remember anymore what occasion it was, but we decided that it was appropriate to open a bottle of wine and drink it. So we finished one bottle, and I suggested to open up another one, but Lyudmila was telling me that we shouldn't. She said, please, let's leave it at that, don't open another one. And he said, no, it's fine, I want to drink another one, and you join us. So we basically got a bit excited. So we opened the second one, Lyudmila started to cry and left, and I haven't understood why. Just so you know, we were drinking Petrus red wine. You get it, right? It's quite a good one. Which I brought with me from France. And we were celebrating and drinking on something. I don't remember anymore what it was. Later on, when I was about to leave, I went to Lyudmila to say goodbye and asked her why she was upset. She was crying and sobbing. I asked her, what happened? What are you worried about? And she said, he should not drink. Don't you understand what kind of sadist he is? I said, what do you mean? She said, he is drunk. He will now start pinching me and squeezing me and show off all sorts of judo moves on me. She said, I won't be able to leave the house for a week because of all the bruises. So you get what I mean. This is something that is rooted deeply inside him. It shows that something is wrong with him mentally. I feel like this fragment of the interview with Sergei Pugachev is very revealing. It shows us that first of all, Putin doesn't even seem to consider the value of the life of people who used to be close to him or who helped him out when he was in need. He seems to have no moral boundaries when it comes to ordering the assassination of people as long as it serves his needs, even if those people have been kind to him in the past. This is something that most of us are probably already aware of. What I haven't been aware of so far was that he seems to enjoy inflicting physical pain on other people. Once you understand that inflicting pain towards other people is something that he is enjoying, his actions seem to make more sense. This is why he made sure that the orchestrated apartment bombings in 1999 in Moscow have been happening at night when most people are at home. This is why he decided to start a war in Chechnya and make it an extremely violent one, which was full of systematic war crimes against those civilians who he was mad about because they were protesting for their independence. This is why he ordered his troops to shoot at the school gym building with heavy shells during the Beslan hostage crisis. This is why he chose radioactive polonium as his poison of choice, which costs over $25 million to produce, just to make sure that the ex-FSB agent and whistleblower Litvinenko will suffer before he dies. This is why he is making sure that his main political opponent, Alexei Navalny, remains in solitary confinement during his 12-year sentence, and that's why he wished that Navalny had no right to see an independent doctor during his stay. This is why he instructs his riot guards to arrest and beat up protesters. This is why he is not only tolerating, but even encouraging the development of systematic torture within the Russian prison system, which has been proven by the whistleblower and ex-inmate Sergei Savelyev, who managed to hand over 2 terabytes of torture video footage to the human rights organization Gulagunet. This is why the theater in Mariupol that was marked with the word kids has been bombed with over 1,000 people inside it. This is why such a high number of rape cases, executions of peaceful citizens, and systematic bombardments of residential areas all over Ukraine could not have happened without him instructing his army to do so. If he wouldn't have wanted his army to be 60 times more likely to hit civilian objects than military ones, he, as the supreme commander, would have given the order not to attack civilian objects, and it would have happened. This is why he ordered to force another 300,000 mobilized Russians to join the meat grinder in Ukraine. If he is enjoying inflicting pain on the people he is supposed to like, how much does he seek to hurt those he dislikes? There is no other nation he dislikes more than the Ukrainian, a nation that has shown him many times how much they hate him. I do not want to claim that causing pain is his only motivation, but once you understand that it is a desirable aim for him, his choice of actions suddenly make more sense. It seems like throughout his entire political career, he tried to maintain a balance between satisfying his desire to hurt people and yet not doing it too obvious so that the public doesn't notice it. The more time passes, the more obvious his sadistic tendencies will become, and those people who have remained by his side will realize that they have helped to create a monster. Thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing and voting to support more translations of historically important content. Thank you.